We're going to just wait till it goes onto YouTube and then we'll start. So I'll introduce you, do some things, and then you'll talk about yourself.
Okay.
Hi. Okay, I am Kathy Couch. This is the Rewired 360 EMDR Journey Through the Eyes podcast. I am so grateful to be here on Friday. It's August, and we are here with Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler. I might have butchered your name, but we are so excited. We are a podcast that delights in seasoned conversations with EMDR clinicians, and we're able to kind of begin having those conversations. So you can find me at rewired360.com. And I wanted to allow Barbara to introduce herself. Today, we're going to be talking about pre-phase 1. And then in a few weeks, we're going to have her back and talk about EMDR intensives. So Barbara, give us all the juice and all the goods of where we can find you and what you do and what just delights you.
Oh, I love that intro. Thanks, Kathy. It is really good to be here, and I really enjoyed our pre-talk. That was really, really fun. So yes, I'm Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler. So yeah, Zeidler. So Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler, and I'm based out of Littleton, Colorado. Um, I am an EMDR trainer, consultant, and certified. And otherwise professionally, I'm also IFS level 2 trained and IFS Somatic certified. I call myself polyvagal nerd. Polyvagal has transformed my work as
Yeah.
well as and the way it plays with EMDR and IFS. I'm also a really experiential therapist. I only work with adults. And what I'm learning is that when I work with adults who have such developmental trauma or shock trauma, um, that we need to be playful with it as well. So I do a lot of Sandplay work at the office
Okay.
and a lot of experiential things because the body really holds the information. Um, so again, Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler in Littleton, Colorado. My business is creative and caring counseling, and that really just sort of labels who I am and how I like to show up in the world. So it's great to be here. I'm excited about our topic.
Yeah, we met because we were asking for people in a group that we have to join us, and she has so much knowledge, so we couldn't do it just in one session. So, do you do an intensive only practice, or are you doing weekly therapy? How do you have your practice structured?
Right now, I have a hybrid, which means I still have my regular weekly clients because some people benefit better from that. And then I also have intensives. So right now, it's a little bit of this, then a little bit of that, and it's working. But as the teeter totter goes, I'm shifting more and more to only intensives. And so any new clients that want to come on board with me, it's well, I have a 2 hour minimum, preferably 3 hours, and maybe we'll meet once a month. So it is shifting to be rather an extended appointment or an intensive.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, can you describe the difference for our listening audience between the extended session and your intensive structure?
And yeah, absolutely. And this is my definition. Um, for me, an extended session is anything between that 2 to 3 hour mark. And that feels extended to me. Now, if a person were to come in 3 hours, 3 times a week, I might call that an intensive because we've really intensively gone into that appointment, into that trauma story. Whereas an intensive for me is when they're coming in and we're hanging out together from 9 to 5 with an hour break. So we're really in there all day. And sometimes it's beneficial for the client to be with me for 2 days or even 3 days. So the difference is in the length of time.
Yeah, that is so great. Can you talk to us a little bit about this pre-phase 1? So I want to just give a little story. When I was learning EMDR, I had a client that said that somebody had worked with a protocol with her on pre-phase 1 work, or not pre-phase 1, neural, let's see, in vitro
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, pre-birth. Yeah.
birth, pre-verbal, yes. And so pre-verbal protocol. And so that kind of got me into this whole experience here with EMDR. So
Yeah.
I had not heard of pre-phase one, so that's what we'll be talking about today. Can you kind of tell us the story of your work with pre-phase one and kind of give us started off here?
Absolutely. I came up with that idea of pre-phase one because in my work as a consultant and as a trainer, and as a polyvagal nerd, I'm realizing more and more that when the therapist shows up in the room in a rigid place and they're trying to do the protocol and they're trying to do these things, the therapy doesn't flow as well.
Yeah,
So when I'm talking to therapists and we're teaching the protocol, the 8 phases, the 3 prongs, the NC, the PC, when we're teaching things, we want that knowledge definitely. And we don't want to be rigid. We want to be flexible because what really is the healing element is the attunement. What really is that thing that says it's safe to feel safe. I
yeah.
can support you in this space. Let's be brave together. That's all the therapist energy and how we co-create space together. So pre-phase one was developed when I realized, gosh, I can teach all these things, but
Yeah.
what about the presence of the therapist? Does that make sense? The presence. How am I showing up?
And doesn't that, I mean, if we're going, I know just a smidgen of polyvagal. So doesn't it, to the nervous system,
Mhm,
it begins setting that landscape for
mhm,
it's okay for my nervous system to be in rest and digest and
mhm.
parasympathetic. And what does that feel like? So many times we get our patients in fight or flight. We're having panic attacks. We're having anxiety.
Yeah,
I just had a patient that said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize what I've been having the whole time was panic attacks."
yeah.
And it's like,
Mhm.
yes, we want you in rest and digest, and we want to begin letting you know that we can co-regulate and that my nervous system and your nervous system are attuned. And I think that's, we learn it in school, but also when I can think about conceptualizing that as a part of their nervous system regulation and the safety and trust, it just becomes so much more fruitful, right? It just fits all together. It's so exciting.
It does. It fits all together. And so if I, as the therapist, if I am showing up in my panic attack, in my anxiousness, how can I invite the client to drop into their whole system here? So
Yeah.
it's very important how we show up. And that's what I mean by pre-phase one. Check yourself. Where are you in your own nervous system? Are you regulated enough? Are you like before we got on, I was explaining my grandchildren are here. Now, and I'll be honest, I was like, oh my gosh, the noise. So I was like, okay, just put in your earbuds and it'll be fine. And
Yeah.
so I recognized where I was, and then I took appropriate action so that I could be regulated again. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the therapist knowing where they are, and we get to be in all of our energies. It's a matter of are we aware of where we are and do we need to shift before we invite the client into the healing space? That's what's important to learn how to shift so the client can be in an optimal healing environment.
hmm And then if you're thinking about creating that for your patients and, how to create that environment, what are some of the things that you do with intention
Mhm.
to create that space to sort of set the tone?
Yeah, yeah. So it begins with me and it begins in my own self-awareness. So for me, I first let myself go to my breath because breath is just the bridge between this and that. The breath for me bridges. So if I notice that I'm taking a breath that is sort of short and tight, I'm like, oh, Barb's, let's check into that. What's going on? So I notice my breath, and then I might do certain things, like aromatherapy or some tapping. Or lately, I'm into going right by my clavicle and massaging right underneath there on both sides and resetting my system, helping my physical body catch up with my emotional body.
Yeah.
Um, Things like that. And then when I finally get that organic belly breath, and I could feel my entire system breathe and soften, I feel ready to invite my client into my space.
And then when you're talking to them about this, how are you, beginning to lead into differentiate that into phase one, and how do you kind of make that, which is the history taking for our audience? How do you, and treatment planning preparation, how do you kind of transition to that? What are some tips and tricks?
Yeah. And so pre-phase one is done maybe without the client in the room, right?
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, before I open my clinical door, I'm checking, am I ready? Is my room ready? Right? Is my room organized? Because clients notice things. One time I got my hair cut and they're like, "Oh, you got your hair cut." And it's like, "Yes, I did." Or I changed my pillows. So is the room ready to receive the client and help and welcome their nervous system to feel safe and seen? So is my room ready? Do I have all my things? Do I have my tea and my water? Am I ready? So all of that happens before I open the door, pre-phase one, before I open the door. I get
Mm-hmm.
myself ready. And
Mm-hmm.
then I open the door and I welcome the client. And now the client enters into a space that hopefully there's a phrase that Dr. Stephen Porges coined, and it's called neuroception or neuroceptive. And that's where your energy system senses my energy, your nervous system senses mine. And hopefully, the client, when they enter my room, their nervous system tells them, oh, it's Barbara, she's safe. It's Barbara, we can get really brave and vulnerable here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that can happen. And
Mm-hmm.
so, how do I transition? It's before I open the door. And then when I open the door, I stay regulated. And if I become dysregulated for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason,
Right.
um, really vulnerably, I'm sensitive to smells. And
Mm-hmm.
when a client might come in and they have a smell, something
Mm-hmm.
that makes my nose go up like that, I have to re-regulate because I'm a little preoccupied with this uncomfortable smell. So
Mm-hmm.
in the moment, I have to re-regulate too. And
Mm-hmm.
I can do that by pushing my heels to the floor, by slowing my voice, by slowing my breath, by just even naming it. Wow, client, I just need a moment. Let me just check in with myself. Okay, I'm a good again. And then I come back to the room. So that I hope that answers the question that it
Oh
happens.
yeah, of course.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is all about us, right? We hear, and I've done this before. I worked at a hospital, and they were, like 45-minute sessions back to back, 9 patients a
Yeah.
day. Let's do it. And it was like, I'd been in community mental health before, and then I went
Yeah.
to the hospital, and I was like, okay, let's do that. I just was so, and then we're running a DBT fidelity program. So we're working with a
Wow.
lot of high intense borderline patients, and
Yeah.
45 minutes back to back. And so
Yeah.
that time in between to re-regulate, even
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom, to just,
Yeah.
is so important. And so I kind of learned steps and tricks to manage that time,
Yeah.
but I also think, if you're working in a organization really kind of advocating for this, we learned, our therapists, we,
Hmm.
we need hour spots, and eventually went back to the hour
Oh,
spots,
good.
but
Oh,
just,
good.
thinking that through and really saying like, we are the tool. We need to take
Yes.
care of ourselves
Yes.
and regulate and
Yes.
all those things. So it's been an awareness of mind that we have to be physically present and those
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit kind of about polyvagal and how that fits into this pre-phase one, since you have
Yeah.
done a lot of learning and education around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my nervous system, so in polyvagal theory, developed by Stephen Porges, Deb Dana is one of my favorite teachers, one of my original teachers about polyvagal theory.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And what I have learned and have embraced is that the way I am feeling in the moment really translate into how I'm being perceived. And so what I'm noticing is like my self-awareness. I have this little thing I teach people. It's called ABCs, DE. And ABC stands for aware, breath, choice. And in my awareness, I'm really staying very attuned to where am I? Am I relaxed and present? Am I sympathetic? Oh no, I'm running 10 minutes behind. What do I do? What do I do? Or am I dropping down into a dorsal collapse of it's, my fifth, sixth, seventh climb of the day, and I'm just exhausted. So I practice my awareness of where I am in my self energy. And then in that awareness, I take a breath, I take a pause, and I make a choice. Is it good to stay here, or do I need to do something to regulate differently right now? So polyvagal theory has set the foundation to inform me and educate me that when I'm showing up in my ventral vagal energy, my social engagement system, it invites my client to
Yeah.
also show up in their sympathetic or their social engagement system. So I feel like it's a, dare I say, an ethical responsibility to be so self-aware and show up as best as I can in that place. So I'm aware and I do things to help re-regulate so I can be as present as possible.
Yeah, that's very good. And a lot of mindfulness, right? We have to be, aware of that with mindfulness and our own
Mhm.
skills. How do you do that over the intensives,
Yeah.
either the longer extended sessions of 3 hours or the 6 hours? How do you kind of do that for yourself throughout? Because we're working on a lot of really dense material, right?
We are. And even when it's the regular traditional hour, EMDR 8 phases, 3 prongs. And when we're in that phase 4, where things can get really raw and really vulnerable, and the client is really emoting and bringing things that they've never shared before, right? Like things, whether it's in the clinical hour or whether you're in that second day, fifth hour of that second day, it's this moment to moment attunement, moment to moment awareness. So, one of the things that I am studying are the paradoxes of being a therapist. And what do I mean by a paradox? I mean that I want to be here in the moment with you while being so aware of myself. And the
Yes.
paradox of like,
Yeah.
what do I do? What do I focus in on? And it's this thing that we're juggling and we're doing in the moment, in the moment, in the moment.
Uh-huh.
So it is a very in the moment thing. And I just want to pause and double check because I can tell I was like, oh, did I answer Kathy's question? So what do I do? What I just did. So in therapy, sometimes when I feel like I'm overthinking, I'll be really transparent and say, oh, client, let me take a moment and just check in with myself. I'll be really transparent and maybe even model to the client that it's okay to slow down. It's
Yeah.
okay to say, I feel a little lost. Let me slow down and check in. So that's one of the ways I very authentically do it. I have a way of saying, "Oh, let me check in with my head heart." I say that a lot because many of my clients would be like, "Hey, Barb's, I did that thing you do." I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" Because
I
I curse a
know.
lot. I curse a lot too. I'm like, "What did you do?" I found myself saying, "Let me check with my head heart." I'm like, "Oh, well, what happened next?" And it's like, "Well, I really slowed down and I got in touch and I was able to come back to the moment." Like, wow. So that's a lot of what I do.
My question is, they don't teach that in grad school, those kind of things. When did you start doing that as a practice as a clinician, and how was that sort of realization for you when you began doing that versus, we all have transformative experiences or things that we do. I think I'm going to try that. I think it's amazing modeling and, we learn these things that are just like, oh, that's just a skill. Don't worry about it. It's like, oh, this is so important. It can transform everything. How did that go for you?
What a great, great, great question. There have been a few iterations of it, a few
Yeah.
iterations. I
Uh-huh.
remember the first time, though. I remember the first time where I dropped into my
Uh-huh.
authentic self, who
Yes.
happens to be a therapist, right?
I love that.
My authentic self who happens to be a therapist. I was a baby EMDR clinician, so it was too many years ago, but I was in the field for about 3 years and I had been doing EMDR about a year. And I was doing all the things, I was feeling confident, I was looking at my sheet of paper, And I was doing all the things. I was doing all the things.
Yeah.
And the client was in a profound moment of discovery, and we caught eye contact. And the client's eyes were just, maybe you've had this experience, Kathy, looking at me, beseeching, like wide open, like I'm in this place of terror and bravery. I'm right here. I'm right here, you know? And I was like, Barbara, stay here. Don't go back to your paper. That would be so, what's the word? I
Yeah.
don't even,
It's
just
kind of invalidating.
invalidating, right? I didn't want to leave them in this profound moment of
Yeah.
courage,
Yes.
right? So I remember I put the clipboard aside
Yes.
and I was like, just do it, Barbara. And I was in that paradox again of, but you should be doing this. You should be the perfect
I
therapist.
understand.
Follow the
Yes.
protocol.
Yes. Yes.
Barbara, you can't abandon this person right now. Be
Yes.
right here. I was in this paradox and I put the paper down and I took a breath and I relaxed my entire body because I was tensing and I
Yeah.
relaxed. And guess what happened? Guess what happened next with the client? What
They went to
happened?
courage.
That they went to courage, like, you're here. I'm not alone. I can do this. And I was just right there. So that was one of the first times where I realized the power of presence and this concept of presence over performance,
It's the art, right? It's the art of therapy.
art.
It's this, I remember kind of being a baby clinician and okay, you got CBT, client center, DBT, you got all the things, and
Yeah,
you're in
yeah.
there, your client, you're like, ah! And then you leave, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta do DBT. This session was DBT. And then I'd have somebody come in and be like, nope, it was CBT. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do? I gotta do the right intervention. And
yeah.
then I just realized I remembered like a day when I was like, oh, forget the protocol. Okay, I'm just gonna be here with you.
You did that too.
Yeah.
You
I
did.
was like, I can't,
How
it's
did that
too
go? What
much.
happened?
And
Yeah,
it was like just you forget like being with them is like the
yeah,
juice. It's like
yeah.
the good clinical and it's like, oh, they feel it like, oh, it's like, no, I don't have to do it all. I can and I when I integrated that, it was like, oh, okay, I
Oh,
can be with you,
right,
be real, but
right.
also I haven't done this reflect. Let me check in with my head and heart. I
That's
think I could, I think that's a really good,
right, right,
strategy tip
right.
that I want to try because I do that, but I think it's really good to model and really just intentionally know that self care in the session of like, let me step back for a minute. That was really intense for me too.
Hmm.
And also as a way to kind of debrief cumulative stress, right?
Hmm.
To be like, okay, I'm not leaving the session with so much now.
Hmm. Beautifully said. And I
Mm.
said A, B, C, D, E. So I wanted to finish the D. Aware,
Okay, good.
breath, choice.
Okay.
D, E is determines the experience. Because
Oh,
if I'm up here and I'm in my sympathetic energy, polyvagal phrase, if I'm up here in a fight or flight and maybe I'm in a place of let me be the efficient therapist, let me go through all the things, let me do all the things, let me be efficient and get that SUD 0 and VOC 7. Let me be efficient. And I'm up here doing the things, right? Um, well, if I stay there, what is the experience the client is going to have? They're going to stay up in that sympathetic
yes.
too.
Yes, they're not going to land. They're going to go and fly away.
Right, right.
You
They're
know?
not going to be it's not going to be this organic process. You know, when I look at EMDR, I look at it as a beautiful map of
Yeah.
here's where we are and here's where we want to get.
Mhm.
And there are so many paths to get there.
Yeah.
Some of them are super highway, some of them are a backcountry road, some of them are like a round and round. We'll get there, but let me stay attuned to the moment and trust the process.
And just for a new clinician, it is hard to balance that with being, practicing the protocols, a new EMDR therapist. How do I do my scripts? How do I do mine? So just sense of hope, like you'll get there. Just continue to practice it. It will
Yeah,
become integrated.
yeah.
Just reflect on yourself of like it's okay, follow the script,
Mhm.
but also being attuned. So this is the dance that we do and how do we bring ourselves into the moment so that they can
Yeah,
feel like, oh, this is a this person really cares and wants to get me to where I need to be.
Indeed, while there is protocol to EMDR, there's this art and science to EMDR. Whenever
Hmm.
I'm providing consultation, one of the things when a consultee is saying, "Well, Barbara, I modified the protocol. I did this instead of that." I'm like, "Ooh, what an interesting choice. Help me understand what was your clinical reasoning for doing that." I'm not saying it's wrong. And if there's rationale because you're in the room, and so
Yeah.
if there was like a rationale behind why you modified the protocol, excellent. You're doing
Hmm.
the dance. You're doing the
Yeah.
polyvagal dance. You're doing the healing, space dance.
Hmm.
So there is protocol. And then
Hmm.
there is also this I'm in the room and this is what I did and why. I
Hmm.
celebrate the creativity
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, that's so hard. It's okay to deviate if you know what you're deviating from or have that rationale, right? I think it's
exactly.
so important to give ourselves, freedom because it can feel very like I have to stay in this structure and it's a protocol and yes, but also, the attunement and this
Yeah.
idea of, even just like I see you,
Yeah, even
right?
when I see you, one of the phrases I learned and I love when I did my AEDP training was undoing the aloneness. A lot of times, our clients, when they have that trauma moment, even if it's in a crowd of people, they can feel so isolated and alone. So when we stay there with the client and the client is seeing, I see you, and I'm seeing you without judgment. I see you with compassion. I see you with courage. I see you. It can be so healing. And then the brain has a chance to shift from maladaptive to adaptive because they feel safe to be seen and it's safe to be authentic. They can be their authentic selves. So that idea of, I really want to normalize to any newer clinicians. It's so normal to
Yeah.
follow the protocol and want to do it right. For me, if you remember my story, it was about a year after my basic training, and I was doing EMDR constantly. I can't even tell you how many, EMDR sessions I had done, phase four, and all of them. And then I trusted the
Yeah.
process. I trusted
Exactly.
EMDR. I
Uh-huh.
trusted myself as a clinician, and I profoundly trusted the client's own nervous system and their ability to regulate and re-regulate. So for me, it was this profound leap of trust to put my paper aside and go with the moment.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that trust for self too of like, no, we can do this. And I
Yeah.
found that with resourcing, right? I was like, there has to be more than like this container and there has to be more than, the light stream and whatnot. And it was like, okay. And so then I kind of found this Easy Ego State intervention book by Raman Shapiro and started working kind of with different ages. And then we kind of mixed in with IFS and parts and really like when I tell people, when they're in this panic attack or have this anxious part, I just let them know, like, imagine the scene, we're all on a bus, and your right now self is at the front of the bus, and this anxious part is taking over. So, would it be okay if you could just tap that part on the bus, tell it to take a back seat, and reestablish the driver's seat? They're like, oh, yes, they love that. And it's like, oh, then now, okay, what's it doing now? Like it's in the back of the bus, and but they notice all the other parts, but they're feeling like they're in their autonomy now. It's like, oh, this isn't just something that happens. I can have a sense of autonomy and control, and it's like, oh, that's
Right,
a simple shift, and it's like,
right.
whoa. When I first did
Whoa.
that, I was like, yay, just like awesome, and so
It's
they felt so good.
and it could be like applying that ABC, aware breath choice. There was an
Yeah,
awareness of what was happening. There was a
yeah,
breath or a pause. And then there was a mindful choice to determine the experience. So you did
okay.
that ABC so skillfully. And if we think about EMDR therapy and how we're shifting from maladaptive to adaptive, or
Yes.
if we're thinking about our parts and how our parts are always helping us, there was this beautiful introduction of what would be the wise choice right now? Does this anxious part, is it wise for anxious part or is it habit? Right? Because habit can take over and it's like, wait, we can change things. So beautiful work. And for you, that was a moment of what do I want to say? Redirecting, calling out and redirecting who you're doing therapy with, who you're doing
Yeah.
with.
Yeah,
Great.
their self, right? You know,
Yeah.
that we have a sense of agency. This, we
Yeah.
have all these things around it, loneliness, shock, and so
Mhm.
we think
Mhm.
that those parts are, us. And it's like, no,
No.
you're the person, you're, in executive functioning, you have the brain, and
Yeah.
so it's like that would just, if there's one intervention I might share with you, try that because it's like, it's just shifts. You can see it in their face, like, "Oh, I'm not responsible."
Mhm.
Because there's so many times people have said, if you're anxious, just do something different. If you're depressed, just get up. It's like, okay, it can just take a moment of that responsibility. That's one of the clinical themes or plateaus, like
Mhm.
Dr. Shapiro calls it. Did you know that she called those the clinical themes plateaus?
No, I didn't know she calls them
Had you
plateaus.
heard that?
No.
Yeah, so it's in the basic text. I was reading that, and she calls them clinical plateaus. I was like, "Oh my god!" So it's personal responsibility, choice, safety,
Yep.
and so I was like, "Oh, it's a plateau of like where all of this information resides." I thought, "Oh, that's very interesting."
That
So it's
is.
that sense of responsibility that we're sort of reshifting and taking that
Yeah.
power back. So
And it
so
began
cool.
in the awareness. And
Yeah.
how did the awareness happen with that clinical attunement?
Yes.
So if we pull it back, like how were you even aware of it? Maybe the client spoke of it, maybe, or maybe the clinician in that pre-phase one energy of I'm here with you and I'm attuned with you, I'm present with you, could name it. And maybe
Yeah.
it's subtle. I know I've had clients where I'll simply name um, um, something about the jaw. Like I'll go like, I'm noticing that your lips got tight and your jaw looks tight. What's going on now?
Yeah.
And naming something, calling attention to it can give words to it. So we're making that unconscious conscious
Uh-huh.
by naming it. And then voila. But that's part of what we do with our moment to moment attunement and our connection and bringing in always that safe to engage presence. The client become aware, like, oh yeah, my jaw is really tight. I don't want to move my teeth right now. Go with that, right? And then we're shifting from that autonomic response into
Yes.
choice behavior.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah,
good.
so good.
Wonderful conversation about pre-phase one. Excuse me. What other things would you like to share about pre-phase one or any other tips or nuggets for people trying to apply this
Hmm.
attunement strategy? We have the ABCDE, which is great. Anything else?
Um, I think the work begins with curiosity,
Yeah.
clinical towards
Uh-huh.
self, curiosity. I think if the clinician can stay curious and aware and self-exploring, and to become aware of biases, uh,
Yeah.
and to practice their own work, and that in between sessions. So in between sessions, how are you using it? Are you doom scrolling? Are you doing that? Or are you stepping outside and taking a breath of fresh air? Are you doing some of your own tapping? Um, Being very intentional with your practice and how you're showing up. I know for me, sometimes I go through stressed seasons. There are seasons of stress and anxiousness. And when I'm going through that, I double down with more mindfulness practices. I think I read somewhere, oh, you don't have time to meditate, double down and meditate more because that is what I need to do to really ground. So
Yes.
be intentional with your space in between appointments. Stay curious about your own regulation system, and that not to vilify. It's absolutely normal to drop to a sympathetic fight or flight. It's absolutely normal to go down to a dorsal vagal collapse. It's normal. But the key is know where you are and then know how to relieve yourself from being there. That's
Yeah.
what we
That's
do.
the key. Yeah. And we have
That's
to do it too, right? We're not perfect people.
Oh no, golly gee. No, golly gee, no. Oh
What
no.
I know you mentioned you're going to be doing some trainings, some things coming up. Can you describe those and then where we can find you?
Um, let's see. I will be, um, let's see. I will be doing an online training, and let me pull it up really fast. I'll be doing an
Yeah.
online training with Ricky Greenwald, who has been doing intensives for such a long time. And this is his second annual intensives conference. And I will be doing a co-presentation with Stephanie Phelps. Shout out to Stephanie.
Yay,
Um,
Stephanie.
she is fantabulous. And so I'll be doing a training there with Stephanie, and I'm pulling it up now. There it is. And it's called Anchored and Aligned: Inner Presence and Outer Structure for Intensives. And
Ooh,
you can, yeah, Stephanie will be bringing the structure of like how to create an intensive, how to market an intensive, what do you need to do these things for an intensive? And then I'm going to bring the soft skills about how to stay with endurance in an intensive. When you're on that third day with a client, how do you still stay present? So I'll be bringing that, and Stephanie brings the other thing. So that is going to be November 14th. And if you research or Google Ricky Greenwald, and it's called the Trauma Institute and Child Therapy Institute, TICTI. Or you can go to my Facebook page and find it there. So I'm doing that training. I'm doing a training up in Breckenridge for the Colorado juvenile judicial system. And that's
ooh,
going to be bringing polyvagal theory into that so that there can be co-regulation in that really,
ooh, I
environment.
love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm doing a training in Portugal next year, about with Alejandro Castro. And you know what? How about if I just say Google my name and I'll have them all listed because there's a lot of them coming up.
You
And then
can send me send them over to me. I'll
send
put
you
them in the
links.
show notes. Yep.
What a great idea. I'll send you the links because I I love my life, but I can't remember them all. I am full of abundance, is what I'll
Oh,
say.
that's so good.
And
So
so I'll
I
do
have started working with therapists on ketamine assisted psychotherapy and just a 101 course. It started in my community here in
yeah,
Idaho. And so I found a really good provider we're working with. So I have a 3 hour ketamine assisted psychotherapy
yeah.
coming up. We have a certification intensive where we're working on 3 hours of certification hours.
Um,
And then we have our university program where we're companioning through certification and consultation with cohorts. And so the idea is to go from basic training, which I'm working on, which is the first step after your master's degree, first EMDR training. And then you're certified, and then you're a consultant, and then you can help at the trainings. And so this is still in development, but it's a university. The idea is you can go through the cohort together and learn together, and we're in this community together as a team. And so those are coming up in September. There will be new information coming from the EMDRIA conference later this fall on the changes in the consultant status and what that means for consultants. You can look for that. Stephanie Pierce, my colleague in Pennsylvania, has a grief summit coming up in the fall. I'll list that out. And then I have a documentation course and a grief and loss targets course coming up live. So those are my
nice,
teaching tools. And so excited for all those things. Uh,
nice, really nice. I
any, go ahead.
and the one thing I'd add, I do bespoke trainings, meaning agencies are hiring me to do customized trainings for them. So
Ooh,
I interview the supervisors, I send out a survey to the team, and I find those points that might need a little bit of support or a little bit more education. And
that's
I
great.
love designing. That's something I love designing is designing personalized curriculum with really phenomenal takeaways. And
So
yeah,
good.
yeah, so I do that a lot too. So it's great.
Fun.
I do.
Organizational consulting. That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy to have you. For our listeners, come back in a couple of weeks, and we will be working on the details on intensives, You can find my intensive practice at willowcreekhealth.com. You can find my training practice at rewired360.com. We're here pretty much every Friday. You can go on YouTube and comment and be a part of this as well. So you can find those scheduled on my YouTube channel. It's at Rewired 360 EMDR, I believe. And so, so happy to have you all. Have a great Friday, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye bye.